Hi friends. So in the last video, I spoke quite a bit um, about that space in between that I discovered or rediscovered was a place that I could have access to in myself that allowed me to um, navigate my life from a place that felt more truthful. And um, what I want to do today is just start this video by saying that um, one of the main reasons why I spent so much time talking about that space was to reinforce the truth that that is the space from which healing can happen. And I want to be very clear here and say that um, I'm talking both about healing on a physical level, but also about healing ourselves from um, any sort of conditioning or experiences that we've had in our life. Today, we talk a lot about trauma. And to say that healing ourselves from our big capital T traumas or our small t traumas or our life experiences that have caused us to think that we are uh, a certain way and that limits us uh, is possible to heal. In other words, we can go inward into that place of truth that resides within each of us and um, engage parts of our being that have been adversely affected by events in our life that cause us to feel diminished and begin to address those and heal ourselves from within on an emotional level, on a psychological level, on a spiritual level, and ultimately on a physical level. Because all of those dimensions of our human being are intertwined. Okay. Um, so I'm smiling this morning because I was a little bit excited about sitting down in front of the computer, even though there was a part of me that is nervous about not conveying everything I want to convey, excuse me, or forgetting to say some of the things that I want to say. But I'm especially excited because one of the things that I want to bring up today is our superpowers. But before I go there, let me take a step back uh, because I want to take an opportunity to say thank you to all of my own teachers that have really shed light on all of the things that I've been talking about in these videos about our inner dimension and what's possible to do um, when we can consciously and with intention uh, immerse ourselves into that stream of our inner being. So uh, I want to say thank you to Dr. Joe Dispenza, who does a lot of work bringing together the realms of science and spirituality and leading people to recognize that when we access um, what one might call the quantum field or the, the choice point or the unified field or the source point, regardless what we call it, it's that space that exists in the very fundamental core of our being, our physical being, that holds information and potential. I spoke about potential last time, and um, I was alluding to the oak tree and the acorn, and suggesting that within each of us there is the potential to become who we truly are, and not be defined by who we think we are, just because we live in a particular culture that causes us or encourages us to define ourselves according to very limited parameters. Um, so what Dr. Joe Dispenza does in his work is lead us into a space where we can let go of um, our preconceived ideas of who we think we are, and so allow ourselves to drop into a space that holds the potential to recognize and reveal possibilities within ourselves that we can choose to create. And of course, I'm not doing justice to his whole body of work, but I just want to again try to simply highlight the fact that he, uh, as well as others, are using science as a tool to shed light on what is possible to experience in the realm of our life that goes beyond scientific measurement. Um, I also want to give thanks to Greg Braden, who has also done so much and continues to do so much work on helping us to see um, that it's possible to choose who we become and to not blindly follow who we think we are supposed to become. I want to thank uh, Lynn McTaggart, uh, who is doing beautiful work on helping us to understand that when groups of people come together and hold an intention together, um, let's call it prayer, with a single-minded thought, that together there is hard evidence that change occurs. And that can be something like sending an intention to a seed to grow, to a plant to grow, to any life form to be um, changed in some way, for a cell to grow faster or slower than another cell that is not being prayed for. There is so much evidence to support this knowing that our consciousness, and when I say consciousness, I mean that part of us which runs through our physical being, that is at the core, the source of our physical being, that holds the intelligence that we can harness and direct toward physical change. I hope that's clear. If it's not, please send me a question in the comments and I'll try to be clear about it, more clear. And Anita Morjani, who wrote a book called, excuse me, Dying to Be Me. And I can say a lot about that book. And I will, I think, at some point more in the future. Excuse me, my voice is going a little bit. But one of the, well, perhaps the most important thing about her book, Dying to Be Me, for me, was to reflect the truth that beyond the physical dimension of living, there is another dimension of our being that continues and in which we can continue to evolve and grow and receive information. One of the primary messages of that book is that in order to live fully as we are, we need to choose to not live in fear. Okay, now, before I go down another tangent, as I've told you I'm prone to do, I'm gonna reel it in and say that another one of my teachers, and again, I call these my teachers because whether I've read their books, seen their videos, heard them speak at conferences, they have all been mirrors that have reflected back to me something that I've known deep within myself, demonstrating that there is much more to who we are than what we think we are defined as by our physical parameters or by our personalities. And also, as Bruce Lipton so exquisitely points out, when we can recognize that what we think is possible based on our current scientific knowledge of what we think is possible in terms of our biology, that is to say, when our medical science says something is or isn't, and that's it, there's nothing to do about it. That is, as Bruce Lipton calls it, an outdated BS. And I love that he says that, because what he's actually saying is an outdated belief system. Haha, gotcha. He got me too the first time I heard it. It's an outdated belief system because our current scientific knowledge has surpassed the mechanic Newtonian science, which sees the world as a machine, operating like a machine. What quantum science demonstrates to us is that there's a whole realm of aliveness in the smallest of the small that we can only really begin to explore using quantum microscopes and technology, where physical reality doesn't actually behave according to what we have been taught up until now in our schools and in our society. And I think maybe one of the easiest ways to demonstrate this, without going too far down the scientific road, which I will, which I won't do justice to, is to refer to the work of Masaru Emoto, who has a book, among others, called The Secret Life of Water. Masaru Emoto. And what Emoto's work demonstrates is that when one considers or directs their thought toward a molecule of water, that molecule of water will behave differently depending on the quality of thought that's being directed at it. Now, stay with me here, okay? So, if we take a molecule of water and direct a thought of love to it, then that molecule will create crystalline structures within it that are beautifully symmetrical and round and harmonious. It will form depending on the state of our emotion that we're infusing into our thought, versus a situation where if we take a molecule of water and direct a negative thought at it, something like hate or anger, then the molecules within that water will form asymmetrical, jagged edges and broken forms. And again, don't trust me on this. Look at the research. It's there. All to say that if we send loving thoughts to water, the water will respond in real time in beautiful, harmonious, symmetrical, crystalline structures within itself. Now, think about what I imagine most people know and what we've been told most of our lives. Our physical bodies, are composed mostly of water. At least a large percentage of our bodies are composed mostly of water. Now, imagine what's happening if we're thinking negatively about ourselves all the time. Imagine what's doing to our literal inner physical structures. And imagine what's possible if instead we direct our thoughts in a loving way toward ourselves, toward the stuff that makes up our human bodies. Imagine if I can send a loving thought to a water molecule in a laboratory. Imagine what would happen if I could send loving thoughts to all of the water and all of the molecules and all of the cells and all of the blood and all of the muscles, etc., within my body. Imagine what we can achieve. So I think I'm making the point. At least I hope I am, and I get very excited about it because this is the link between accessing our inner dimension and participating in our own healing. We can literally change the fundamental structure of our biology by communicating with ourselves from that place within us that is not physical, that place that runs through us, that is consciousness, that is mind, that is not measurable or quantifiable in the laboratory. But the relationship between our consciousness and our bodies is evident. I'm turning a page here because there were certain things I didn't want to forget to talk about. And so, hang on, just checking my notes. And so what I spoke about last time, in terms of how I wanted to reveal to myself in my day-to-day life how to live, how to identify situations that were either right or not right for my soul's calling. I begin to implement practices that allow me to crack open spaces and hear my inner voice more clearly. And part of doing that has been looking to these teachers as guides, as mirrors, to show me and remind me what's truly possible. And what I hope is that this video series will do the same for others out there. That my own story of healing will be useful or in service to others. And you know, just as a sidebar, many years ago, when I finished my master's degree, and all of my friends at the time were embarking on their PhDs, and I felt like I had to follow the same path, otherwise my value would be lessened. I felt like I needed to determine my own self-worth by what course was being set out for me by the should-dos of my culture. And as I started that process and struggled with trying to think of a topic for my PhD and what I would do, and it became clear to me that I wasn't ready to do a PhD because I had nothing new to say. And I made a promise to myself at that time that I would only ever try to contribute in a, for lack of a better word, in a documented way, once I had something new to offer. And the reason I'm doing this now is because it's become clear to me that my own story is the new thing. I'm the only one living it. And in my living it in my own unique way and understanding the things that I'm understanding through my own adventure, are there tools and treasures that I can share. And so I hope my story can serve as a mirror to you to help you uncover something within yourself to assist you in your own healing. And coming back now to the idea of superheroes. As I mentioned in my first video, I've always been fascinated by superheroes. I used to play superhero games as a kid. I still, if it was up to me, the only movies and television shows I would ever watch would be Marvel movies, DC comic things, anything having to do with magic. That's really all I want to watch. And I think the reason is because all of these superhero / magic stories point to a dimension within ourselves that is always there, and is just waiting to be discovered. And within that uh, is our superpower. And so when I talk about my favorite, my heroes, my teachers, Bruce Lipton and Greg Braden and Dr. Joe Dispenza and Lynn McTaggart and Caroline Myss. Oh my God, Caroline Myss, M-Y-S-S, M-Y-S-S-E. I'm sorry, Caroline, if I'm mispronouncing or misspelling your name, but Caroline Myss. It's either M-Y-S-S-E or M-Y-S-S. Um, she has changed my life also. Um, all of these people are literally holding up a mirror to the invisible dimension of who we are so that we can access that part of who we are, that part that we are all connected to, that part that runs through each of us uniquely, and that part that we can send information into to affect change in ourselves and in the world. Um, and as Joe Dispenza puts it, uh, we can become extraordinary. In fact, I have a book right here of his. It's called Becoming Supernatural, Dr. Joe Dispenza, How Common People Are Doing the Uncommon. And I think about all the superheroes that I've been excited about throughout my life. And what occurs to me is that most, if not all of them, have gone through a process where they move from being quote unquote ordinary, living in the mundane world, to experiencing something in their life that causes either a trauma, an upset, a point of tension, where they are forced to expand themselves to become bigger than what they thought themselves to be beforehand. Just as I was talking about the caterpillar and the butterfly in the last video, there's something that causes each of these extraordinary human beings to surpass their limited perception of themselves and expand into their extraordinariness, and allows them to access their superpowers. So, if I can, in my own life, see myself beyond just my name as Jeff Golf, beyond the fact that I'm bald, beyond the fact that I'm a gay man, beyond the fact that I identify part of my personality with my job, beyond the fact that I'm somebody who just hates to empty the dishwasher and fold laundry. If I can get past those definitions of myself, then I can begin to release all of those masks with which I face the world. And as those masks fall away, I can begin to recognize that at the core, there's something that is unchanging, that is always calling to me, and that wants to be listened to so that it can, I want to say, bleed into the world in a very positive way, so that it can nourish my own being in the world in the way that only I can. And coming back to the superheroes, it also occurs to me that each of the superheroes at one point or another had an ally with them that allowed them to see themselves in their own unique superhero-ish kind of way. Think of Superman and Lois Lane. So although his super personality was kept hidden from the rest of the world by a pair of glasses, by a pair of glasses, let's just assume that worked. In other words, his identity, the face, literally, that he was showing to the world was that of Clark Kent. There was one ally, one mirror, one deep part of himself, one might say, uh, that allowed him to reveal who he truly was and express that. Think of Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman who uh, lived her life as Diana, wearing glasses again, with her hair up in a bun. um, when she was able to find that one soul friend uh, who saw her for who she was able to more fully come into her own superpowers because she has somebody to mirror that back to her. Spider-Man. Spider-Man, who went through his own um, transformation, being bitten by the radioactive spider, woke up in the morning, didn't need his glasses anymore, was able to crawl up the walls. Um, Although he had to remain hidden from the world, there was one person, his girlfriend, at any given movie. I think the girlfriends change, but there's always one key player who sees him for who he is, and that gives him the inner strength to tap into his inner energy more. I had thought of one other. Oh yeah, of course, Batman and Robin. Batman, who's this, you know, rich, successful, mysterious hermit, um, but is driven to justice, and the only person who can see him is his ally, some say lover, Robin. But that's a whole other story for another episode, perhaps, in another series of videos. But each of these people have maybe an archetypal language. One might say that each of these characters has something within them that is allowing them to see something even deeper within them. And so I thank all of my teachers for continuously reminding me through their work and their workshops and their writings that this dimension of our existence is real and true, and that we can access it, and that we can use it to literally inform our biology. We can change water molecules. We can use the same formula to turn our own genes on or off, to upregulate certain genes, to downregulate certain genes. In other words, we are not victims of our family history. We are not victims of our genetic history. We have choice. In fact, Greg Braden in his research even refers to that point in his research as a choice point. There is a point in which we can let go, drop all of the preconceived notions of what we think is real, and drop into a space which is limitless and which holds all of our true potential. And from that place, utilize our imaginations as tools to create ourselves from there. Our imaginations being our greatest tool as human beings, as a species. We can utilize our minds to choose to imagine rather than letting our minds control us in thinking that we are limited. And so I will leave the video here in gratitude to all my teachers and to all the superheroes and to all the mythologies that show us that we're more. And when I pick up next time, I'm going to talk about how, in my own healing journey, I had to begin to learn about the value of self-protection, the value of recognizing when I was or was not taking care of myself first, and how that played into um, my own healing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being with me. Um, God bless and much love. See you next time.